Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Danny Quick, Public Works Director, and I have, I'm glad he's here, John Elias, who is the Maintenance and Operations Manager within Public Works. Well, as y'all have probably heard, Charlotte County has 4 debris contractors under contract. Following the storm event, and really just right before the event, we were in communications with all 4 of them. 3 of them have told us that they're not interested in fulfilling their contract with Charlotte County. They plan on doing no work here, and they are going forth in other areas to do the work, and that is not in Florida, and certainly is not going to be in Charlotte County. We have the 4th contractor who we've been in communication with, and they're still looking at it. So we don't know yet whether or not they're going to get in the game or not, but I'm not all that optimistic. So ladies and gentlemen, we are on our own, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Part of John's discussion here, he can provide more details about what he's doing to mitigate that situation and try to overcome it as best we can and get assistance besides just our own in-house forces. But I also want to say that we're not alone in this circumstance. It's a statewide problem. We've been in communication with several other counties and received some input and information, and are all struggling with the same problem. The contractors have bailed out of Florida, and they've gone on to bigger and better things elsewhere, not within this state. So we're all basically left holding the bag. So that's where we stand with this situation. So far as schedule, by the nature of the work, we're not ready and prepared to provide you all with any kind of definitive or any kind of schedule today about when we're going to be completed. John's going to provide you some details about that and why that is. And we're really hesitant on just being here today and winging it so far as the schedule, because we don't want to create some kind of artificial expectation out in the public and do some kind of disservice, because if we don't know, we don't know, and I don't want to say anything other than that. Secondly is, please bear in mind that very soon we're going to have to provide a report to FEMA early on in the process as they get further into the game with us with respect to reimbursements. And they're going to want to know schedule, timeframes, construction estimates, quantity, all that stuff. And I don't want to say anything here today that may conflict or what we have to change when we sit down formally on the record and start talking to them about these sorts of things, and may have an adverse impact with respect to our reimbursement, from them, and muddy those waters. The last thing I have to say before I turn it over to John is that I have directed John to pass the word to our folks, ladies and gentlemen, in Public Works, particularly Maintenance and Operations, who's actually doing the work with respect to the debris. As you can imagine, there's a lot of different kinds of equipment going all different kinds of directions in a very confined workspace. You have big trucks coming in and out of the workspace, either picking up the debris and hauling it off, and then empty trucks coming back in. Plus, we're also having a deal with maintenance of traffic. There's a lot of traffic, local traffic, on the local streets where the debris is. So there's a lot of moving parts. Someone can get hurt real bad, real fast if they're not, on it. They have to be fully aware of what's going on. They can't be fatigued. They can't be tired. They have to be cognizant of what's going on around them. So I've asked him to pass the word for them to take their time, slow down, do it right, do it safely, but keep moving and pay attention to what's going on, because I don't want anybody hurt. So having said that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Elias.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, John Elias, Maintenance and Operations Manager. I may have a presentation I can show you on here. It was up here earlier, and if it's not available, there's no way I'm going to be able to go back to it, because Carly had to walk me through a process.
Yeah, go ahead. I'd rather not, but.
My guess is you probably have done this, but have we looked into the possibility of dealing with individual private contractors and/or the possibility of contracting with Waste Management to do some additional stuff? Because everyone has raved about what they've done after the storm, but I don't know if they have the equipment and/or I don't know if we have enough empty dump trucks with private contractors in the county that some of them might be able to assist us.
That's going to be part of John's
okay.
information he's bringing forward.
All right, thank you.
So I had a map. I just want to kind of give you some time frames so that everybody knows what we're dealing with. As last Sunday, we essentially found out that we don't have a debris hauler. We've had numerous meetings, and to even go back a little bit farther, immediately after the storm on Monday, our debris contractor was here. It was amazing. The wind had just settled. We were doing our initial push. He did a 3-hour tour of our county with some of our staff, and at that time he said, I don't know that you have enough debris to warrant me sending contractors. So we had numerous discussions where that's not part of the contract. Whatever we need them for debris, that's what they're on the hook for. So he stayed with it, trying to get resources here with regards to the actual people that haul the debris, and we found out affirmatively on Wednesday that he was unsuccessful in doing that. With that said, from the Monday after the initial storm to that following Sunday, our staff working 7 days a week, very long days. I couldn't be prouder of the team that we have over there at Public Works and Maintenance and Operations. They've been amazing through this whole ordeal. They did the initial push throughout the entire county. So with every staff member that I have, if they weren't answering phones administratively, they were out on the road getting debris off the road just to keep the traveling public safe. Some statistics we're trying to impress upon everyone is it's 2,200 miles of road, and we had to drive 2,200 miles of road to get all the debris off the road. We've also worked closely with Brian because some of the criticisms that's been levied was your guys came here and they just pushed it off and they didn't pick it up. So we've been trying to make sure that we're clear with everybody that that initial push was just that. It's not an acronym. We're pushing the debris off the road to keep everybody safe. So that Sunday when we completed the push, that was the same afternoon that we had scheduled for the following day to have our debris monitor company certify the trucks that the debris contractor was going to be bringing to the landfill on Monday. Well, that Sunday we found out there's not going to be any debris contractors. So Sunday we scrambled and called an audible and brought in all of our staff on Monday morning and had them meet at the landfill with every truck available that we had and had all those certified to haul debris to the landfill. That was on Monday, a week after the storm. We started hauling to the landfill that day. I can tell you all the logistic reasons. Is probably getting too far into the weeds as to why we started in West County, but there was a reason why we started in West County. That's kind of the information we'd put out that the contractor was going to do, so we wanted to mirror that. And we were also working closely with Richard Allen's people to make sure that his normal waste operation routes weren't going to be in conflict with our trucks picking up debris. Monday morning, the day we start picking up debris, we had a staff member in our office basically on the fly put together an app for us that's linked to our GIS page, because obviously through this whole process a big concern that we have is FEMA reimbursement. We want to make sure that we're doing everything by the book to get reimbursed through FEMA. So with that said, that's the gentleman who came up with the app right there. As a matter of fact, amazing job he did. What this app allows us to do is for every crew that's picking up debris, they take a photo of it. It does a timestamp of where they're at. The pile of debris gets loaded, the picture gets loaded, and we're getting real-time information. It's updated every 2 minutes. As of 15 minutes ago, we were up to 1,843 piles of debris we've removed, and probably by day's end, I would imagine we're close to 2,000 piles of debris we've moved. That's not truckloads, that's piles of debris. One of the challenges we're faced with, and one of the reasons why it's very difficult to get anybody to want to try to take on this task, is anybody that's driven around, you have large piles of debris and you have small piles of debris. Some may take an hour, some may take 3 minutes. So what we've done operationally is we've tried to put as many chipper trucks on our rotation as possible, and we're up to 3. And we've also looked to local agencies, anybody with chippers, any contractors. We work closely with Kim to get Anybody available, to include, we've sat down in meetings with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They said our system is amazing, they were impressed by it, but they're not going to be able to assist us. And if they can at some point in the future, they'll let us know. We've put in a formal request through the EOC asking for 10 additional dump trucks, tandem trucks with swing gates, and 4 additional chippers. With that said, all this time we're doing all these things, we're still out picking up debris. One of the other operational efficiencies we gained is the Monday after we started picking up, we started literally already having discussions with the person out on 771 who can that has the incinerator. And by Tuesday we had a formalized plan, and by Wednesday a PO was cut, so we've started hauling there, and that's exponentially increased our efficiency rather than hauling at the landfill. But that also required us to get our trucks recertified for cubic yard rates as opposed to tonnage rates, and requires us to have a monitor on site, which we did all that. All that's already in place and been done. So I would like to be able to tell you guys a schedule like Mr. Quick said, but with that said, my wife's asking me, when are they going to be out? I'm like, I don't know. We're working as fast as we can. I thought I may have my operational pace somewhere last Friday, but it just hasn't happened. I would expect another 2 weeks we'll have a really good feel. And again, we're trying to put all this information out on the media and anywhere we can, working with Brian's group, so that people know where we're at and know where we're going. But again, we don't want to give a time frame, just because the nature of this is we could have a person go down and do a review of a road, and an hour later there could be 2 more piles of debris out there that people have brought out. So it's kind of a moving target that we're going after. Again, to make sure everybody knows the resources, we've talked to the Army Corps, we've made a formalized request with the EOC, and we are working with Richard Allen to see if we could possibly contract waste management. Kim has been an integral part of all these conversations. She's assisting us, making sure that we follow all the procurement guidelines, but we're basically going to continue the path that we're going of us picking up the debris, and we have basically 45 people staffed to this full-time. That includes 3 supervisors in the field. That's 17 dump trucks, pretty much every dump truck we have, with the exception of 1 that we're fixing washed out roads with. All of our chipper trucks, we're borrowing a chipper from Tommy Scott. He's been a big help. The team has really come together, and we're exhausting every resource that we have internally, and at the same time continuously looking for outside assistance any way we can get it. And if we put that on board, then the cleanup process would even be quicker. So I'll try to answer any questions if anybody has them.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Constance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, so far, and Mr. Quick, yeoman's work. I mean, you guys are really in a tough situation. I think it was excellent forethought. You saw, and you expressed it just now, you saw what was happening. You saw you probably weren't going to have a fallback position, and you guys were the front lines. You snapped right into it, and we really appreciate the fact that you came up with a plan. You said, you know what, we can make this happen. So otherwise, we'd have debris sitting around, and we'd be just unable to find anybody, and we'd be a couple of weeks behind. So great work on that with respect to that. When you've collected the material or chipped it up, you're taking it down to the landfill area where the composting facility is? What are you doing with the material once you've collected it?
And it's a very good question. So FEMA has very, very stringent guidelines about how this material can be handled. So originally we were taking it to the Charlotte County landfill, but from West County we were talking a 60-mile run out to Zemmel Road. So we made the audible like 2 days into it, and we're hauling it over off 771, and that site's been certified by our monitoring company. They've got all their permitting in place, and we're hauling it there at a cubic yard rate that's way, way, way cheaper than what we expected it to be, and we're not hauling it an hour and 20-minute round trip. So it's
fuel, man hours, all mileage on the trucks. I mean, it's an excellent.
The first day we picked up probably, and again, some of the morning was spent certifying the vehicles. The first day I think we picked up right around 400 piles of debris, and the subsequent days it's went drastically up because of the operational modifications we've made for efficiencies.
Well, that's great to hear. And then the other part of this is, look, I believe this is going to take months. Okay, this is a storm. We haven't had a major storm in 13 years, and if you count Wilma, 12 years. But at the end of the day, a lot of debris was shook loose. A lot of trees have been killed. A lot of stuff's gone on that, is not normal. I anticipate this is going to take months, months and months, and I would prepare the citizens for a very long-term cleanup. That's the reality. Is it possible, and of course, if I'm wrong, let me know, but is it possible to set up a map on the website that at least people can see where you've been and where you're going? Not a timetable, but just here's where we've been and here's where we're going, and the sooner they see that, the better they'll know that they're on the leading edge, and those folks better be ready within the next day or two or a week or two. Somebody may be coming by, so don't say, hey, I didn't know. You know there's the map and there's your house, and you better be ready. Most people have stuff out already, but there's others that haven't really truly prepared, and information is everything.
So to respond to your question, not only do we have the map, we've already had numerous meetings with Brian. I was hesitant to post any information from the map the first couple days because it was, in the scheme of the county, it seemed like such a small area. And when you look at the dots on the map, until you zoom into it, it just looks like there's an area, say Rotunda, one of the triangles looks like there's some dots in it. But when you zoom in, again, there's literally, by day's end, there'll be 2,000 individual dots on that map with a link to a photo that shows the debris we picked up. And it is our intent not to share the live map, because that's linked to our GIS, but screenshots of that to show the areas that we've done and the direction that we're moving into. But again, we want to caution that it's not like we're going to be here in 3 days, because we may hit an area. One of the other things that we're dealing with is that there's really no area that I could say definitively it was harder impacted than any other area of the county. It was just kind of like an even spread of just debris, and like you'd indicated, people are bringing stuff out, so what looks like as a road that shouldn't take us long, by next Monday might be a road that there's a significant amount of debris that we're removing.
Right, but I'm saying if on the map you can at least sort of put small quadrants with letters, so just people know logistically it's going in this direction, versus you're not hodgepodging it, you're concentrating in one location and you're moving through in a very systematic way, just so they know what to anticipate, that's all.
But that's not only we have the ability to do that, that was our plan, and we'll probably start doing that before the end of the week. We're also going to break one of our vehicles off that's a standalone grapple truck that will be able to go through the major roads throughout Mid-County, Port Charlotte, and South County. That's going to be a little bit larger operation, and we're going to do traffic advisories on that, because there has to be an attenuation vehicle behind it and a different MOT, so it's it's a little bit slower process, but it'll get some of our main roads, just the debris, off of it too.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Okay, he's going to bring it up.
He's going to bring up the map for
Go
us.
ahead, go to Commissioner Sale then.
Yes.
Yeah, one thing we've noticed with all these natural disasters hitting is, you know, as Americans, we're kind of self-help. We help each other. We do it ourselves sometimes. And I know in our neighborhood, when I mentioned it may take a few weeks to get the debris picked up, I had a neighbor who immediately just brought a trailer borrowed from his dad and put his stuff on there. And I said, you know what, I got a pickup truck. I'm not going to wait either. So this weekend, I just got a whole pickup load of debris and brought it to the transfer station. So for you folks out there that, you know, your pile's not so big, but it's small enough maybe you can get access or you know, to put it in a container or something, get it in a vehicle and get it to the transfer station. The county does offer that service, and Ray may be able to speak more to this in terms of maybe lifting the amount of trips you can make to the transfer station, or maybe the hours, so people do know the hours and that transfer stations are available in Charlotte County if you don't want to wait, and it's small enough. I even had a neighbor who had a small pile, and when they saw us moving our piles out, and I don't know if they can do it, but they did, they cut it up with loppers into smaller pieces and put it in their normal Thursday vegetation pickup. So
we can respond to a couple of those. Richard, I believe, is already allowing, remove the limits on the transfer facilities. Have we increased the hours? No, we haven't. And I think at first we were considering it, but it kind of slowed down enough that it wasn't warranted. But the other thing, speaking to what you're saying, technically, and this was a learning process for me, Waste Management is not contractually obligated, because of our own codes and ordinances, to pick up storm debris. With that said, if they put it out meeting all the criteria that Waste Management's required to pick it up, they will pick it up. But it could take a while just because of the amount that it is.
yeah, so for the folks out there with small piles, maybe reduce it even smaller, put it in the appropriate size containers where it's the proper weight and size and bundled properly. That may be another option if you don't want to look at a small pile for the next couple of weeks. And also, if you have a neighbor who has a vehicle, ask if you can help load it up and go to the transfer station with them. I think 4 or 5 people on my street alone in the past week have found a way to get it to the transfer station because they don't want to wait. So just a thought out there for people who may not know we have a facility that'll take that stuff. So if you can get it there, they'll take it. It doesn't take long to throw it off your vehicle. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Robbie was able to get the map up, so if you want to just look at your display there, I can kind of just zoom in here and show you what we're doing. And again, these are the areas the streets that we've swept already, and I'll just pick one and we'll see. Okay, that one doesn't have one. Maybe it's because of this setup here. Okay, here we go. Each one of these is a photo of the pile of debris. So that one, again, operationally, we've decided that if it takes more than 10 minutes for a chipper crew to pick it up, just let the grapple trucks and the bigger equipment come by. But on stuff like that, that's probably something we're running through a chipper within 3 to 5 minutes and we're going on down the road. But for literally every one of those dots, there's a associated picture. We've also worked closely with our GIS department because we kind of just came up with this on the fly and we didn't want to have a cloud space storage issue on their server. So they know what they got coming at them, and they're working with us closely on that as well.
Mr. Chairman, is this the live map?
This is live map. This is updated every 2 minutes.
Thank you.
And again, we're not going to necessarily post this to the public, but we're going to post screen grabs of this to show everybody what we're dealing with. Not to sound boastful or like a braggart, but everybody that we've talked with, including our monitor, the debris contractor, we have another monitor working with finance, the Army Corps of Engineer, said this is amazing, and they've never seen anybody react and have this set up this fast that we're able to do.
Yes, and that's what I helped Robbie on.
Yeah. Ravi helping us do this was really a critical link in helping us get FEMA reimbursement and keep track of it.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but why don't you formally introduce him?
Yeah, Ravi.
Come on up.
Ravi's the one who
You gotta sing his praises.
Yes.
So let's
Well, I have,
put him up
for
on
sure.
camera and let's do the whole.
I not only owe Ravi. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Ravi.
I'm Ravi Kamarajgada, working with Venkat and helping John.
Yeah, he works for Venkat, and I told not only Ravi that I owe him lunch, Venkat gets a lunch out of the deal too, just because by association. But
Wait a minute. I don't know about that. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, it truly is an amazing ability for us to do this. We've worked with our IT. Another thing, operationally, we've reached probably the saturation point of things that we can have to load trucks. We've found that balance where if we need more trucks, if we want to put any more items, loading trucks, because that's just where we're at. But again, it should be noted that you can rest assured that the entire process, and we'll continue to do this, we're going to be looking for every option to bear with regard to augmenting it with private contractors to do this work.
Very good. I have a question that's probably not one you're going to be able to answer.
You might be
It'll
surprised.
be more posed, you're going to have a comment in there maybe, but it's going to be more posed to our county attorney and to Mr. Sandrock, and that is, for debris contractors that don't follow through with their contract, should we be sending these to Pam Bondi's office, the Attorney General? I know that they have a very keen interest in those that are price gouging right now, and I think that this is another avenue, especially since it's a statewide situation, so.
I think it's something that needs to be looked at further. It may be that it's a matter of an impossibility for them to perform if he wasn't able to, or they weren't able to get.
The rub is this: the debris contractor was here
Right.
immediately following the storm. I made assumptions early on that they had went south where there was more debris and they could pick more stuff up. But in talking with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer gentleman that was staged in Charlotte County, really good guy named Robert, he said they're not in Florida at all. They're in Texas. And I was like, well, I've just basically heard about the flooding. And he's like, there's a 300-mile path of destruction. It's windborne debris everywhere. And there's groups of these contractors that go around the country doing this, and the majority of them are in Texas right now. When our debris person was here, the most he was going to be able to get us was 3 trucks, as it was. He's like, that was all he was going to be able to commit to. And again, we've at least got 17, probably closer to 21 trucks doing this right now.
And have any of the like excavation local hauling companies offered, say, hey, this is what my rate is. If you need us, we'll come in and assist?
We're working closely with Kim on that. Again, the snafu with this is we want to get FEMA reimbursement, so it has to be a rate that's agreed upon by everybody that they would reimburse for this. And the other thing is, it's so sporadic debris. So if you can imagine owning your own truck and say, I have to go looking for debris to get a truck full, and then I have to haul it, and the reality is we're doing it for $70 a truck just to get rid of it. The rates that we're seeing are upwards of $300, $400, $500 a truck, and even then they're saying they're barely making money on this. So that's the challenge that we have.
Mr. Constance?
So essentially what you're saying is these companies are storm chasers.
Yeah.
So when bad tornadoes hit, they go to those locations.
Storm or any kind of, I wouldn't call them chasers. It's just basically an industry
Storm.
that's developed around this type of stuff, which is
It's a
disastrous.
storm reaction.
Yes.
Type of- yeah.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
And because you don't know when or where you're going to have these types of it, we've had two very close and very broad.
Yep.
And so the assets that are available are taxed beyond what we're able to do right now. So again, I want to echo some comments that commissioners have made about the effort that you all have made. The app idea is phenomenal. Thank you very much for bringing that forward and making us more efficient, and also give us an opportunity to work well. I mean, this is something that you'll be sitting at a meeting one day and they're going to say, show us how you did this. And I really
I won't know, but
well, I don't mean that part. I mean kind of the whole thing, you know, how the whole thing worked and how you've been receiving compliments because of the efforts and the efficiencies that are there. This just adds another layer to it. You won't be able to tell them how to develop it, but you know somebody who can.
I will say again, just the teamwork from the different departments and divisions that have been assisting with it. But my guys, until this weekend, we still may be working a 7-day week. They've been working 7 days a week, dark to dark. We're trying to scale that back, not just for our purposes, but for the places that are augmenting our services. They're not available sometimes on Sunday, and they made themselves available for a while, but just from a safety perspective, we're going to try to give these guys some downtime because they've been putting a lot of effort into this.
It's been hot too, so
Yeah, for sure.
combinations. Commissioner Doherty?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great job, guys. It's just, it's a war.
Yeah.
You know, you got a war map now, so got a way of really documenting it. It's very, very unique. I think, and I appreciate Commissioner Tiseo, your comment about waste management. There has been some confusion when people thought that there was a debris contractor, whether waste management was going to pick anything up. I gambled. I had about a dozen bags out the first Thursday, and they took them along with my. It was small stuff, you know, and again last week. I think that's important to get that word out, that they are still taking yard waste, typical yard waste on your regular pickup day. And then, again, understanding that the bigger stuff will be taken away as soon as possible. But,
And to even clarify that, it's forbade for us to pick up anything that's bundled or in bags or in barrels. So if you see us going by, we might pick a pile of debris up right next to a pile that's bagged. Right. We absolutely can't pick it up, or it will not be FEMA reimbursed, and it could sully a larger picture of it. So we're very stringent on that.
And I actually separated. We had some pre-storm stuff that we put out that was picked up, but I separated the storm stuff, knowing obviously that there's a different way we need to handle it. But yeah, again, well done, and really appreciate the information, the update.
Appreciate it.
I do think it's going to be important also is if when you clear a street and get it taken care of, like you said, there's a possibility of people coming back out and adding to it again.
There's a 100% probability that it's going to happen.
That you get, but I would prefer you hit everybody one time and then go back to those guys.
Operationally, that was exactly our plan, because we went out on Minnesota up here as an example, and we kind of went up one side and back down the other, and by the time we were coming back down the other, people were already putting debris out, and I just didn't want to get stuck in a holding pattern in one area. So we're also getting that information out to people that, hey, if you get debris out after, we'd prefer you. We're trying to get everybody to get their debris out now, but it's not. We'll come back and deal with this on a case-by-case basis if we need to come back. And it's just so you know, I've assisted with storm cleanups. They even sent a group from Charlotte County to clean up the Panhandle after Hurricane Opal that I was on. It happens every storm.
Is there, Mr. Chairman? I'm sorry.
I've got Commissioner Deutsch, and then I can come back to you, sir.
Yeah. You know, obviously, everyone appreciates the effort made. However, just for a point of interest, our normal pickup day was Wednesday. And I guess Wednesday after the storm was the day that Waste Management said that they were going to start doing their routine stuff. And with the exception, and I'm on a relatively short street, maybe there's 30, 40 houses on it, I had 3 trees down. I think I was able to save them. However, we had a small bunch, sort of kind of what the normal stuff might be. But except for 1 or maybe 2 large piles of stuff, Waste Management did pick up a lot of storm stuff, at least on my street. Now, I don't know if they went beyond that, but they came in and, they did their regular pickup, they got the barrels, and then they picked up all but 2 really, really big piles, which obviously, were from the storm. So I don't know if that's happened in other areas. And 2 questions that are raised, and I'm not going to attempt to deal with either one of them, is if they do that, were they eligible for anything, and or, is that part of the natural job that they do? I don't know the answer to either one.
Any debris that Waste Management removes right now, until we do a supplemental contract with them, any debris that they removed is part of the franchise agreement that we have with them existing, and that we wouldn't seek to get reimbursement because it's part of what we already pay for.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was any communication with them or not, but I know on my street they picked up some storm stuff, and at least there's all again, but the really big piles. So, and in one-on-ones, I was surprised how many people came up and made some comments about how they felt they were doing a good job with what they were doing.
Thank you. Commissioner Constance?
Is there a plan, thank you, Mr. Chairman, is there a plan as you go back through areas to change the color of the dots?
We can change, he's got this set up to where we can filter it by day, by all kinds of stuff. So
I'm just thinking for the static shot you're going to take every day or 2 to upload to keep people aware, they'll understand that the red was the first run and then blue is the second run. I don't know if you're going to do more than that, but that keeps people aware, so they go, okay, wait a second, there's red dots in my neighborhood. Now I see a blue dot, and I'm looking at it, and it realized, oh my gosh, they're coming back through now. So I got to be ready for that.
So yeah, that's probably what we will do. We've done that even with internal databases. We'll put a different color coding on there and stuff like that. It should be noted, too, that when you're seeing these dots, a lot of these are in front of developed areas and developed houses. There's a large part of the county, including developed and undeveloped, where we got to pick up debris that's falling over, and all we can do is chop it at the right-of-way line and pick up that debris. That's all that's eligible. So I don't make assumptions that these dots are all in front of houses. There's lots of debris out in the middle of nowhere that we have to remove as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Deutsch?
Ray, we talked about the other day when we were getting the boat out of the water because of the lightning. If you look at blocks 33, 34, and 35. Yeah, right, just where the arrow is. That's the canal that runs from the lagoon up to the boat lift. And that was the area, and I don't know if they're, mostly 33, 34, and 35. In that area, right along the Santa Cruz waterway, they were huge. And if I wasn't on the water, I don't think I would have seen them, John, but there were some huge trees, not in the canals yet, because we talked about this, at WCIND, but, right along the edge of the canal. And I'm talking about trees that easily were from you to me with a root system, maybe 8, 10 feet across.
That area has some real large Australian pine.
Yeah, and I don't know who owns that. Is that private? Is that county? Is that state?
I'm not sure. And again, our work effort is strictly located within the right-of-ways adjacent to roads. Now, there's been discussions with Joanne's group and our group, as well as the AI and the Tetra Tech group, that there's another contract that we have that will remove stuff from canals, lakes, ditches, and if it's warranted, we'll have that in place.
The reason I wanted to mention it, I had mentioned it with Ray on Monday morning when we were talking about it, and I didn't know how to define the area, but seeing the map up there, and right from the lagoon, at least up to where 33 on the, what would be the southern end, I guess, of the map. I mean, there were at least a half a dozen, maybe a dozen large. I mean, and they're not in the canal yet. I don't know what the chances that they could be or not be in. And we were sort of talking about it from trying to get debris out of the canals, because that's something that we've been talking about through the MAC committee and WCIND and stuff. But I don't know if you found out anything on that or not, but at least you can easily graphically see the area now. Thank you. Thanks, Ray.